A couple goes on a peaceful retreat to reconnect with nature, but ends up struggling to make it through the night. A man goes to explore a quiet island trail during a spiritual getaway and is never seen again. And the woman, searching for peace and healing, finds herself being watched. Retreats are supposed to be relaxing, right? Well, not always. Hi guys, my name is Anastasia, and here on my channel we talk about social media trends, recent events and all things wellness. Well, it's been a while since I posted anything because honestly I had a pretty stressful time lately. I still have, because I got a new cat. And not only this cat has OCD, but also my older cat got really jealous and territorial, so things have been kind of wild around here. But I'm slowly trying to get back into my routine and back to work. And since it's summertime, the peak season for retreats, I thought this would be the perfect topic to come back with, So today we are diving into some crazy retreat stories from Reddit. But before we start, I want to ask you to like this video and follow me here on YouTube, not to miss any future uploads, and of course to support my channel and support my work. And now get comfortable, grab your snacks and your drinks, and let's already get started. Well guys, let's get into our first retreat story, and this one was written by Blissful Backpacker. Cool nickname. While in the Philippines, my wife and I went to a yoga retreat that was located super deep in the jungle. We were gonna camp by the river, live alongside an indigenous tribe, go hiking, swimming, yoga meditation, and do a juice detox for 3 nights. They told us everything would be provided. All we had to do is bring our yoga mats and a light backpack with the essentials. Day 1 begins by hiking about 3 to 4 hours to get to the camping spot. The trail constantly requires crossing through a waist-high river and fighting our way across deep mud. Aside from all our equipment getting wet and dirty, this is all totally fine for us so far. It's a fun adventure. Once we got there, they gave us a really cheap tent that had some holes in it, and sleeping bags that smelled like they had been used many times and never been washed. Still, we are trying to remain positive, because the location we were at was very beautiful and the nature was just incredible. Also, it was eye-opening to see the way this indigenous river tribe had built some small huts alongside the river and lived there with some farm animals. First day goes well. The yoga sessions themselves were fantastic. It included chanting, live music with Kausiki dancing, meditation, and extended pranayama practices. We swam in the river, hiked to a waterfall, and had a campfire at night. Here is where it all goes bad. During the middle of the night while sleeping in the tent, a massive thunderstorm hits us. I got awoken by water dripping in our tent and completely soaking everything we have. We quickly get out of the tent, and outside is just complete chaos. Heavy rain, thunder, wind, the river is overflooding like crazy. We hide under one of the indigenous huts and just try to wait it out. Other people who were the part of the retreat that set their tents closer to the river had to evacuate because of the risk of the river reaching them. Basically, aside from the organizers who had like a huge glamping tent and one more couple that brought their own tent, everyone else had to get out of their wet tents and hide in the same hut as us. The indigenous people were very kind and kept coming to check up on us. They even offered my wife and I to come sleep in one of the huts where they kept their animals. So we laid down on a rocky floor near 3 chickens, a goat, 2 dogs, a tied-up rabbit, and countless spiders. We were still wet and cold, had nothing to change into, and just miserable at this point trying to wait it out. Like an hour passed, and it was just impossible for us to sleep or even remain in this hut any longer. So we went back to the other one with all the other people. There, we all just leaned on each other's backs, huddled together, and tried getting through this. We ended up not sleeping at all and just wait until the morning. Next morning, we had to cancel the rest of the retreat because everyone's possessions were destroyed. Half of our fruits for juicing supply had washed away into the river, and the tents were just not fixable at this point. We couldn't even leave because the river was so high from the storm it was impossible to walk through. So once again, the indigenous people came to the rescue with their 2 boats. They offered to take us in 2s on their boat and assist us to get out of there. It took about 30 to 45 minutes each way on boats to get out and for them to come back. All of us had to just sit there all day waiting for our turn to get taken on the boat. My wife and I felt bad about the trouble the tribe had to go through for us. So we tried giving them some money for all their help, which they didn't even want to accept. As a yoga retreat, it was a complete fail. As an adventure in memory, total success. Wow, okay, that was definitely more of a survival story than a retreat story, right? I mean, a first huge red flag is how this whole thing was organized, right? Yes, sure, you're in nature, but why the hell people are sleeping in dirty smelling bags and in tents with holes, you know? I mean, people are paying you money. What the hell is wrong with you? Secondly, why there is zero preparation for the bad weather, you know? I mean, you're sleeping deep in the jungle next to the river. That's crazy. Like, you don't need to be an expert to know that tropical rains, storms, whatever, are a thing, right? It's just so insane, I'm telling you. Also, let's not forget that people who organized this retreat were sleeping in safe and dry tents, while everyone else was wet, freezing, and had nowhere to hide. Again, people paid you money, so like, what the hell is wrong with you? That's so disrespectful, it makes my blood boil. Also, I mean, what if there was no one to help, right? What then? Like, this experience is so messed up. As the author said, yes, it's memory and adventure, but such a bad experience. I would be probably very traumatized after that to go on another retreat or something, you know, just wow. The next story is about bad experience at Costa Rica retreat, written by Embarrassed Bad 5275. Let's read it. I'm fresh off a retreat in Costa Rica, where I watched a lot of people around me gain the answers they needed to move forward in life. My experience just wasn't that great. Another participant there seemed to be going through something with his sexuality, and this started to get expressed in a strange way to other people. He tried kissing one of the girls who declined, and then twice tried with me. Both times I gave him a firm no. I had talked on numerous occasions about my boyfriend and also about issues I had with men, as did the other girl, so it feels like he was picking the girls who had past traumas around men. On the last ceremony, his behavior was getting creepier, and at one point he squeezed in next to me before entering the ceremony. I asked him to leave me alone, but he wouldn't. Myself and the other girl flagged our concerns to the guide, but yet not only was he allowed to attend the ceremony, he was also allowed to pick his bed, which was obviously the one directly opposite me. It must have been about 5 minutes after drinking the medicine and everyone is lying in their beds in the ceremony room that I opened my eyes to see this guy looming over my bed. I screamed and ran across the room. At this point, the leader of the ceremony made me come back and sit with this guy, as he told me his heart was telling him he needed to kiss me. No one told him how inappropriate he was, and instead, the ceremony went on. He wasn't moved away, so I had to move. I spent the rest of the ceremony with my eyes wide open, scared he'd make his way back over to me. The day after the ceremony, neither of the leaders asked if I was okay. Instead, they spent a lot of time with him, which I understand is important because he obviously had something going on. But I think, given how scary it was, especially when you're in such a vulnerable state, I would have thought they would take a moment to check in. On the last day, he asked to say goodbye to me, and I said that was fine, but I didn't want to hug him. He agreed, and we said our goodbyes. However, as I went to say goodbye to one of the retreat leaders, she said, "I can't hug you, I don't feel safe." I was confused, but said, "Okay." And then she said, "I'm only joking, but now you know how he felt when you didn't want to hug him." I'm so angry about that comment. I don't understand why I should feel bad for not hugging him. The spiritual guides felt that everything happens for a reason, and this was supposed to happen to me to trigger me. I think that's ridiculous and just a poor excuse for some man's shitty behavior. I feel like he stole my experience from me and then was rewarded with all this support, and I was expected to give it to him as well. Has anyone else ever seen something like this at a retreat? Since leaving the retreat, I feel so sad. I went in feeling worthless and that I don't matter, and I feel as though I have left with those feelings validated. Okay, this story makes me just so angry. Like, what the hell was that, right? First of all, when you go to a retreat, it's supposed to be a safe space. You're going there to recharge, to work on your mental health, to deal with your traumas, to heal some wounds, wherever, right? So how can you possibly do that when you feel unsafe the entire time? That completely defeats the purpose, right? And let's not forget again that usually those retreats aren't cheap, so you're paying a lot of money for what? To feel uncomfortable, to feel unsafe, disregarded, that's just mental. Secondly, when someone says no, it means no, period. There is no discussion, you know? The fact that this guy cannot respect someone's boundaries is already terrifying. I mean, his whole behavior is really creepy, right? And what if this guy is a psychopath or something? What if he's really dangerous or whatever, you know? Because those are the signs, right? The way this retreat leaders handle the whole situation makes me just so mad, you know? Actually, let's be honest, they did not handle anything. Like, they basically protected the creep and blamed the victim, you know, here. How is it even real, you know? And to turn the whole thing into some kind of spiritual lesson, like, what? No, not everything is a divine message, you know? Sometimes people are just creepy and that's it. This is the whole message. This woman came to heal to the retreat, you know? She opened up, she was vulnerable, and instead she just got traumatized. And I feel so sorry for her, truly, because like this whole experience is just so messed up. It makes me so mad. And the leaders of this retreat supposed to be banned from leading the retreats in the first place, right? Because they do not do their job, obviously. Well, guys, our next story is pretty mysterious, and it was written by Sabreteaser. I'm really sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it properly. And actually I made it a little bit shorter because the full version was just too long, you know, so let's read it. Having emerged from two failed business ventures and a broken relationship, Thomas Yeo had turned to meditation as a source of relief. Initially on his own, before taking up meditation classes. In February 1994, Thomas resigned from his job as a special education school teacher and told his family he was going on a month-long meditation retreat to Pulau Seribu Bazar, a Malaysian island about 3 hours away by boat. Leaving home on the 28th of February 1994, Thomas arrived on the island on the 3rd of March and checked into one of the resorts. Interestingly, it is not known why Thomas took so long to reach the island, nor does anyone know what or where Thomas was prior to his arrival. For additional context, travel websites have listed that it is possible to reach the island within the same day of departing Singapore, which does make the extended time a bit of an oddity. Regarding the trip, one of his brothers would later share the following when interviewed by the media. This is the first time he has gone on such a long holiday by himself. He was not troubled or upset or anything, so we did not stop him from going. During his time on the island, Thomas kept mostly to himself, leaving his accommodations early to trek the island's hills for his meditation and returning late. He was also known to have been helpful and quickly became a familiar face among the locals. However, 12 days later, Thomas was no longer seen on the island. The last known sightings of him were on the 15th of March, where one of the locals reported that Thomas was walking in circles around the tree before walking towards the hills. Another resort owner had also mentioned that he was last seen heading to the hills, barefoot in a white t-shirt and shorts. Thomas's disappearance was discovered on the 19th of March 1994, when a resort employee checked on him and found his belongings, including his passport, wallet, and shoes, untouched in the room. But Thomas was gone. The resort reported him missing and police launched a search. Thomas's brothers joined the 8-man team on the island, which was expected to be easy to search due to its small size, slightly smaller than Sentosa, but no trace was found within the first 2 days. As the search intensified, reinforcements arrived. 11 jungle-trained officers from the Malaysian Police Field Force and the 3-man K9 unit. A command post was set up, and the search expanded to the surrounding sea and nearby islands. Eventually, the specialized units withdrew, leaving the family and local police to continue. The search lasted a full month, and the island was combed at least 10 times, but no evidence of Thomas was ever found. Deputy Superintendent Karisman commented, "This is a mystery. We have no leads, no trace of him, and frankly, we have done everything humanly possible." At first, it was believed Thomas may have died while meditating, but the absence of a body really raised questions. Detective Sekhar noted that a decomposing body would not have gone unnoticed by officers or K9 units. The other theory suggested he might have drowned in a cave that floods at high tide, but rescuers said the currents would likely have brought the body back to the shore, and searches of the surrounding sea found nothing. Locals also pointed out that few caves on the island fit the description, and the theory conflicted with the sightings of Thomas heading toward the hills. With nobody found, theorists shifted to the possibility that Thomas was still alive and had used the trip to disappear intentionally. This idea gained traction due to personal setbacks he had faced and his distant behavior before the trip. Locals suggested he might have left the island unnoticed by hitching a ride with visitors during the Hari Raya break. However, since his passport and belongings were left behind, it was unclear how far he could have gone. Checks on nearby islands, including one he had planned to visit, found nothing. The family turned their attention to the meditation teacher, who had previously displayed shifty signs even before Thomas's disappearance, especially after he instructed his students not to say anything about the lessons and his denial of knowing Thomas after he went missing. However, nothing conclusive came out of it. Thomas's mother believed he might have joined a cult in Thailand, but searches there turned up nothing. Curiously, the family received silent phone calls every year around Chinese New Year. The only traceable detail was that it came from overseas. With no leads from the search, Thomas's family turned to spiritual help, consulting 3 Bomos, all of whom claimed he had been taken by mountain spirits. A local who last saw Thomas said, "Maybe he is hidden by the mountain spirit. There are many forests and hills, but we can never be too sure." Another theory suggested Thomas entered a deep meditative trance, making him unaware of his surroundings, though this still didn't explain his disappearance. So the question remains, could Thomas still be alive? I mean, this whole situation is really wild, right? But honestly, it's not that surprising. Because a few months ago, I covered another retreat story with very similar circumstances. But that one happened just recently, in 2024, you know? Same situation. A woman went on a yoga retreat and just vanished, you know, like lots of questions and 0 answers. And the scary part is, while I was researching that case, I found so many similar stories, you know, like way more than I expected. So again, it's not that surprising. Now, when it comes to this case, I mean, of course, technically, it's possible that he disappeared on purpose, because sometimes people do leave their stuff behind intentionally, you know, just to make other people think that something happened to them, so no one goes looking for them, right? And also, we cannot ignore those silent, weird phone calls his family was getting every year. I mean, it is possible that it was him calling his family just to hear the voice of the loved ones and everything, you know? It does make sense. But I honestly don't think it was planned. I think it was just an unfortunate tragedy or something, right? Because if you think logically, I think he was under the influence of something. Because nowadays we have much more information about certain retreats, right? And we know that very often people take stuff like ayahuasca or other substances, right? Which is bad, of course, obviously. But I think that this thing is going on for a while, you know, especially before. Plus, after the breakup, 2 failed business ventures, quitting his job, I think Thomas was in a pretty vulnerable state of mind, you know, so it could have easily messed with his perception and sense of reality. Why I'm saying that? Because first of all, the teacher was denying even knowing Thomas, which is kind of weird, right? It's like he's trying to avoid responsibility in case officers will find Thomas and start asking questions. It's like, I don't know him, I'm not responsible, it's not my problem, you know? Because I think at that time it was illegal, so that's why he was denying everything just in case. On top of that, the same teacher was telling his students not to say anything about the lessons, which raises just more questions, you know, like what you've been doing there, right? Or maybe what you've been taking there on those lessons, which is very shady, you know? It's like his whole behavior is super shady. And then there is Thomas's behavior right before he disappeared. I mean, first of all, he was walking in circles around the tree, which is just strange, let's be honest, right? I don't think he was reconnecting with nature or something. I think he was a little bit tripping, to be honest. And secondly, he was walking towards the hills barefoot. I mean, if you grew up in nature, you definitely know that walking barefoot in the forest or in the mountains, hills, wherever, it's just painful. No one does that. So something was definitely off here. So as I told you, I think he just probably got lost or something, you know, maybe he was confused or disoriented and he was not able to find his way back. And that's why he just stayed there, stuck wherever, right? As locals said, mountain spirits have him. So it's kind of like logical, right? It's similar. But at the same time, what is really confusing, it's the small size of the island. I mean, eventually you could walk somewhere and reach the civilization, right? People, shore, whatever. Or, I don't know, I did not see those woods. Maybe there is no way to walk through the island. I have no idea. But that's a weird part. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, you enjoyed listening to today's stories, and if you have your retreat experiences you would love to share, you're so welcome to do that in the comments. I honestly always wanted to go on a retreat, but after the stories I covered, I'm really scared, I will tell you honestly. And of course, don't forget to like this video and follow me here on YouTube not to miss any future uploads. And I want to wish you today to stay safe, to have a beautiful, beautiful day, and I will see you in the next one.